Does your sex life look completely different than you thought it was going to be? Does your spouse want different things than you do? And have these differences become a problem? Well, if that sounds like your story, then today's video is for you and it's going to help you learn how to deal with the disappointment of these differences, but create a path that you can both be on together. Today's question is, how do you deal with differences and disappointment when sex isn't what you expected it to be? And I want to talk some about the pain that you might have experienced. This can help you identify if this is your situation. The first thing that comes to mind is confusion. There are a lot of couples that are like, hey, we talked about sex before we got married. I thought we wanted the same thing, but wow, the way this is playing out feels like we have very different values. And you're thinking, did you change? Did I change? What happened? Did we never really agree on the specifics? Another pain point is that you can be surprised, like blindsided. This is completely not what I assumed you meant when you said this one thing. And I feel like I feel used when it comes to sex because of how it's playing out in our marriage. Another pain point is that you're sad. It isn't romantic. It feels more transactional. It's not about the emotional connection. It's about this physical activity. Hey, it has some wow to it, but it also leaves you feeling empty. It can be so demeaning that way, and you may just want to cringe or even cry about it. Another pain point is that you're misunderstood, and it's like crushing that you didn't know your own expectations. Your spouse didn't know what you were hoping for. You misunderstood what they were saying. I mean, all of a sudden, what you thought was going to happen looks sideways, and it can be a little hopeless feeling. How did we get here? How do we get past this place? How can we find a common ground? And a final pain point I want to share is feeling rejected. It's like, if we didn't have the same values, then does that mean you don't have the same love and value for me? Like, if we are not sharing these values, then I feel left out. I don't feel appreciated. And that can be disturbing and alarming. A lot of times we don't realize these things are brewing, these feelings are really driving us until it gets big. When pain because of sexual connection or the lack of sexual connection, when that plays out in your relationship, it's hard to ignore at that point. And it makes me think of one of my clients' stories. Everything in their life seemed like they were successful. They were business people, they had children, they were leaders in the community, but she realized it was just not what she thought it was going to be. And even her husband came to her and said, "This isn't what I expected." And their story is similar to a lot of people. They struggled to get pregnant, and that took sex to a whole different meaning because it was so heavily focused on the lack and trying to make up for that. Then they had other health issues, and that just plays out. There's a ripple effect. There was stress, there was missed work, there was a financial implication. I mean, this is not unusual, but we don't always notice that these things compound together and can build up to be an obstacle. She was just not able to get to that place of, freedom. Let me let everything go to enjoy her sex life with her husband. So there were problems that were creeping up year after year until it sort of exploded around them. So, if any of those situations sound like something you've experienced, I want to give you some encouragement here. Even though this is awkward, this is difficult, it is normal. It is really typical for you to have different expectations. And I'm going to explain why this happens. First of all, you're different people. I mean, even if you talked it out, even if you read the same books, even if you had so many experiences in common, you are different people. There's male and female differences. Now, I don't want to go across the board with how these play out, but there are a lot of genetic, biological differences between men and women before we even get to personality differences. And then we have the influence of religious messages that can play out. I mean, some couples are like, whoa, I knew about the no to sex before we got married. I didn't know I'd still be struggling with that. I didn't know that I'd still feel the shame after I got married. Maybe you had some past sexual experiences that still need to be healed. Some of these can be extreme if there's been any type of abuse. Some of these can be chronic because of all of the negative messages and shameful, dirty messages about sex. Those all require extra attention and extra healing to get past that. And hey, just your season in life can put you at a different place than you expected. And you don't know what your whole entire life is going to play out like as a married couple. So you cannot predict how things will change. You know, you have to give yourself a whole lot of grace, give your spouse some grace in regards to this. And I want to give you 5 tips to keep in mind as you're processing that your expectations in regards to sex didn't pan out like you thought. First of all, what you want does matter. So don't disappear in your spouse's preferences. It's usually the spouse that wants sex the most that is the dominant one. And I appreciate leadership in the marriage, in sex. I appreciate the spouse that initiates, but we want to make sure that it's always mutual. Oh my goodness, that is the most God honoring experience, to have mutual satisfaction and respect in your sex life. Number 2, your main goal to remember is that love adapts. So think about 1 Corinthians 13, 4 through 7. Hey, this is such a popular passage of scripture to be read at a wedding, and it applies to your sex life. The way that we defer to one another, the way that we overlook wrongs. I'm not saying be in denial, but the way that we are leaning in towards one another. Yes, love adapts. Number 3, I want us to remember the benefits of God's original design for sexual intimacy in marriage. And this is off the radar for a lot of people. I use the word gift as an acronym that the GIFT all stand for something. And today's message about sex expectations lines up with the T. That stands for timeless. God's design for sexual intimacy in marriage is timeless. You can have childlike wonder and exploration and imagination and joy on one end of the spectrum in your sex life. And on the other end, you are maturing and adapting and creating that space for your spouse to fully show up who they are. You know, a part of that means that you don't have to get it right on your wedding night. You have your entire married life to grow the closeness in your intimacy. A fourth tip for you is that you can learn how to talk about difficult topics. Sex is definitely an awkward topic. And even if you did talk about it before you got married, it's like it's completely different after you've gotten married because of all of the other circumstances that are wrapped in it, especially if you were unaware of some of your beliefs and how it's influenced you. And if you know you need some help to be able to talk about sex, I have a free resource. I'll link it below. It's called 10 Tips to Start Tough Talks. That's right, 10 Tips to Start Tough Talks. So look for that below. It will lay it out for you, really practical steps to help you begin having these conversations, continue to increase your understanding. Hey, misunderstanding, we learned, is definitely a pain point. So we want to grow in the way we understand our spouse. And then my final tip for you is to really consider this is a big picture shift. If you just came into marriage and you did the next thing and the next thing and didn't really sit down and unpack what you wanted your sex life to look like, if you don't make it a habit, at least quarterly, to go back, talk about your preferences, talk about what you loved, what you want more of, what you want less of. All of those things are critical to talk about. And to have a return to God's design, this place of beauty and sacredness and riches in God's original design, it does require us to make that shift. And I love to say, let's bring back wholeness, that thought of sexual wholeness, which is different than what the dominant message is in our culture. So it will be a big shift, but that is a key point to help you so that you don't stay in this place of disappointment, but you grow in your closeness. Thanks so much for tuning in today. And remember that God's design for a thriving marriage is an intimate connection in spirit, soul, and body.